Howdy y'all, it's Curious Raven. It is Tuesday. Hope y'all are having a good week so far. Today we have two longer stories, a little bit longer than normal, and they are paranormal in nature, so hope y'all enjoy them. Number 1. What do you do when you and the people around you keep hearing an unknown voice whisper your names? To preface, I'd like to begin by saying everyone that has experienced this is perfectly healthy and does not have any mental disabilities, other than a little bit of anxiety from school. Though I am a huge fan of horror movies, I am not trying to make my life sound like it's from a movie or a documentary for that matter. Simply, I am just trying to figure out if anyone else has experienced something like this and can relate. It began November of 2021 as two friends and I hung out at my house. I remember the day specifically as November 27th, 2021. It was a Saturday and my mom had work, so the three of us were home at the time with my baby sister. I had never experienced anything as bizarre as this before, and so when it happened, it totally caught us off guard. My mom works in a restaurant, so oftentimes she brings food home for my friends and I. She bartends and is always home around 11:30, 12 a.m. So us eating in the dining at that time was not anything out of the ordinary. My mom had gotten home within that time frame. It immediately gave us our meals and went to bed. In my house, our dining room is surrounded by windows, and the curtains just had been drawn because it was so late. That night, it was my mom, my younger sister, my baby sister, and my friends and I at home. Us being in our teens, of course, thought taking funny photos and making TikToks was the best thing while we sat and ate. To this day, I cannot find any photos from that night. However, all of us are certain they exist. It was fun, and until we, all three of us, had heard my nickname called. I say we as in it wasn't just me going insane. It was faint but clear that my nickname was being said. Each of us almost feeling the voice say my name in our eyes. My friends and I turned to each other as I had called back and gotten no response. I walked up the stairs where all my other family was in bed, about to go to sleep. I started with my younger sister's room and continually asked if she had called my name. She hadn't and sworn she didn't. First, I thought she was trying to pull a fast one until I was fully convinced she didn't. Deep down, I know she didn't. My next guess was my mother, who was sitting on her phone in bed with AirPods in her ears. She couldn't have heard me if I called back. So, why would she have called me in the first place? I asked, and she said it was not her. Nobody else was in my house. After that night, we went to bed and blew it off. The second occurrence was on a day I cannot remember, but it happened to me. It happened to one of the girls that was with me that night. I was not with her when it happened. She was with another girl who hung out with us that night in November. For privacy purposes, a friend who heard her name called was Marissa, and the other friend was Maya. For background, Maya, Marissa, our other friend named Nala, and I have been in a friend group since 8th grade. We were always with each other. When Marissa heard her name called, and Maya had been walking through the school building, they both described it as the same faint whisper we had heard on November 27th. Again, we blew it off. Maybe someone was just whispering to her in the hallways and we were going crazy. Up until recently, I had completely forgotten about it all. 2 years later, our friend group split and Marissa has gone separate from Nala, Maya, and I. Nala had not been with us that night in November, nor was she with the girls during the day in the school, but she certainly knew about it. She admittedly thought we were all joking until the other day. Monday, November 27th, 2023. Nala had gone to work and was folding clothes with her co-worker in the dressing rooms. She described the area around her as empty, as it was late Monday night in Target. She recently started working there and is still getting to know people around her. As she was going about her work, she heard her name whispered and immediately began looking for who had called her. T.S. stated that her and her coworker both looked at each other because they were confused as to who called her when there was not a person in sight. Her relationship with this coworker was fairly new, and it's not at the stage of joking with each other yet, so she is certain it was not him. However, this leads to the question, what or who again? I'm not trying to act like I'm in a horror movie, but I cannot wrap my head around this bizarre occurrence. I'm in search of someone else's opinion or reasoning. I believe in spirits and ghosts, as one's soul is never dead. No, I doubt it's nothing sinister or something to worry about. Fuck, I even doubt it's useful or good. But I just want answers. It's not normal for people just to hear their names whispered. This third occurrence was ironic as it also happened November 27th. I would lastly like to conclude that saying I'm not scared, we are being stalked. That something is out to get us or someone is out to get us. Simply just asking someone to explain this phenomenon. We all believe in the parallel universe, spirits, and ghosts. Though we are horror obsessed, we are not trying to turn our lives into a movie. Thank you for your time, and please feel free to share any personal experiences, as there will probably never be an answer to this. Hello, it's Curious Raven. I actually experienced this once. I was at home alone, and I was in my bedroom, and I heard someone say my name from outside about 3 times. It freaked me out. It was like midnight at night. No one was home with me. And I heard someone say my name like 3 times. And I just figured, okay, well, it's probably a ghost, trying to get my attention. Or a S walker. And that's why you don't answer to them. But that's all I can say is that it sounds like you and your friends might be haunted by one ghost. And on that certain day, it targets one of y'all specifically. Not sure what to tell you to do about it, but that's just my thoughts, and I wanted to share my experience with you. This next story, trigger warning, eating disorder, suicide, and depression. Let's get to the story. Now that it's out of the way, I will build background. So I had a roommate named Adrienne Michaels. You can look her up if you like. We're very close friends and she needed a place to live, so we moved in together. I was pregnant and we celebrated every aspect of my pregnancy together. She made an appointment to freeze her eggs, but she was in her late 20s and didn't believe her eggs would be good by the time she was ready to have a baby. I'm giving these details so you can see what situations we found ourselves in. A few days after my due date, her service cat alerted me I was going to be sick. Sure enough, I was, and went to the doctor just to be safe. For reasons I won't get into on this post, they illegally held me there and coerced me into having an unnecessary C-section, which was my greatest fear. 3 weeks later, I was in a spiral depression and unable to do my task. I usually cooked and cleaned for her. She spiraled into an ED and lost a lot of weight very quickly, and she quit exercising. Another thing I won't talk about in detail in this post, but may detail later, she had a very bad day, and that's the night she died. So after that, we had to move. The first day looking, we found a 2-bedroom house on the lake for $750 a month. Similar houses were going for $1,400 plus at the time, so we felt extremely blessed. We were the only applicants, and the owner said his wife couldn't handle living in the house, but wouldn't explain why. So we moved in, and within a few days, the place started feeling unsafe. We felt like we were being watched. The place really obviously wasn't under surveillance, but I felt like a spiritual thing. I've always been kind of a sensitive to spirits, exception. It started pretty benign, like feeling like I wasn't alone in the kitchen or the laundry room, and that was fine. We just figured maybe Adrienne was stopping by. I would talk to her sometimes and tell her I'd miss her. But then the dreams started. Pretty standard dreams usually. Feeling like my daughter was in danger, feeling like I was falling, seeing shadows in my lucid dreams. But I had a dream about Adrienne. When she was sitting drinking tea after a tearful reunion, she told me that it wasn't safe to be where she was if he had to leave. Something kept lurking in the shadows. She told me not to look for it because it's going to cause me even greater pain. When I woke up, my baby was screaming in her crib, and there were really huge ants all over. She'd been bitten a few times. It was winter, and there were no ants in the house that we knew of. We kept the place really clean. We put out a poison, but we never figured out where they came from, and we never saw them again. They vanished. My chinchillas would bark a lot when they'd normally been quiet. Soon after cleaning, and I found that looked like a bloody handprint in the closet. I took photos, but they were on my old computer, which I can't turn on anymore. The handprint was very clearly that of a child. When we moved in, I put all Adrian's stuff in the spare room and never went in there. Her parents took only her photos and her cat, so we had the rest of her life in this room. I was organizing in the room when I opened the closet and saw an attic bolted shut and painted over. I could see it hadn't been opened since it had been repainted, but in the back corner of the closet was a tiny chair built in. I got spooked immediately by something falling off the table in the other room, so I went out and took care of it, shut the door, and didn't go back in there. That night was the first night I saw something. My husband was in the bedroom changing the baby, and we were talking. The kitchen has a view to the laundry room, and I saw him in there and was talking to him. I went into the bedroom to put something away to find he was actually in the bedroom. I was extremely unsettled by this because I'd never seen anything pretend to be someone I loved. After this experience, I had my very religious mother come through with some church friends and bless the place. It still felt like I was being watched, but I was able to ignore it now. By the time my baby started walking, I spiraled again into depression. I always kept the blinds closed and lived in the dark. Seldom did I even have the TV on, and my husband worked 12-hour shifts 5 days a week to keep up with the bills and things. My mom was over a lot, but quit cleaning, and I can't remember a lot of it. Honestly, I felt immense guilt that my roommate died because I couldn't be better for her, which rationally I know isn't correct, but I was really messed up during this time. It was deep winter when I felt extreme chill, like all doors were suddenly open at once. My scented candle flickered and almost went out, but I couldn't move. I was holding my sleeping baby, and out of the corner of my eye, I saw something crawling on the floor. It was large like a man, but the proportions were off, and arms were way too long. It was walking towards us, and everything in me was screaming not to look at it. I could see it coming towards me, but the entry door opened, and my husband came home early to surprise me with dinner. I told him about it later, when I could think about it. I saw the figures several times more, but there was nothing we could do. Our lease didn't end a few more months, so we just sucked it up and dealt with the fear. I looked into the history of the house, and one of the people who lived there was a police chief who was jailed for abusing his daughter. It was a trap house at one point, and someone had been killed nearby. There's probably a lot of experiences I had in that house that I've set out from my mind, but this is everything that really stands out to me. The house felt suffocating at times and like I was being pushed out. The landlord had a second house available for only $450 a month, so we moved out. The day we found out about the other rental place. No one stays living there long. Most people have stayed about 4 months before they leave. Since the events of this story, my life has improved incredibly. I haven't had a single bout of depression since living there. I have 3 children who are all very happy and healthy. My oldest sees ghosts and has past life memories she tells me about, but I'll save that for a future post. I've been meaning to write this for over 6 years now. If you read it all, thank you. I appreciate it getting off my chest. It's been a long journey. That house that you moved into, I feel like really bad things happened in that house and so much negative energy that it was just sleeping in the walls of that house, and that's why you felt depressed. That's why you saw shadow figures, because of the horrible negative energy that was inside the house. I'm glad that you got away from there. that's the end of the stories today. I know it's a little bit short, but I will see y'all on Thursday. And remember, it's scary out there. Please like and subscribe.
I live inside my own world of make-believe. Kids screaming in the cradles, profanities. I see the world through ice covered in ink and bleach. Cross